ASMR content, but I wasn't really sure what to do. That is, until I saw Sage's baking video on the Whisperwind ASMR channel. Then I knew exactly what to do, because the winter in my house is baking season. In particular, I bake two pumpkin pies every year the week before Thanksgiving. So this year I decided to film the process and share it with all of you. Now, I love to bake, but that doesn't mean I'm any good at it. So please temper your expectations, alright? But it's okay for things not to turn out perfect. After all, it's not like I'm selling my pies. I just have a whole lot of fun baking, and the end product doesn't taste half bad. I apologize for any visual artifacts you may notice in the course of this video. I put my tripod on the same table where I'm mixing and rolling out the dough with predictable results. I got rid of most of the shake in editing, but you may notice some visual glitches. If I do another baking ASMR video, that's one mistake I'll know to avoid. So anyway, I guess I should talk about what you're watching in the video, huh? I'm starting off by making the first of the two pastry crusts. I follow the same recipe that my mom did from the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. It's pretty simple ingredients-wise. Just flour, salt, and shortening mixed together in a bowl. The hard part comes next. You have to moisten the dough so it sticks together. Too little water, and the dough will fall apart when you try to roll it out. But too much, and the crust won't have that flaky pastry consistency. I usually err on the side of too little water. Since I've never published a video quite like this one before, I would love it if you could leave me some feedback in the comments. I'd be especially interested to find out whether you'd like to see more baking ASMR videos. ignore the old man noises I make throughout this video. I was hunched over the table with terrible posture, and my back was really starting to give me trouble by the end. Once the dough sticks together, form it into a big ball, and then work this into a flat circle with your hands. Now it's time to roll out the dough into a crust. As you'll notice, my dough is too dry, and it cracks and pulls apart really easily. But that's okay. It's really easy to push it back together with your fingers. And while the yield breaks won't be quite as strong as if it had never cracked in the first place, it'll be just fine, and you won't have filling leaking through, I promise. And maybe it's a little like life, where old wounds leave scars, but that's okay. Or maybe it's nothing like that, and I'm just terrible at making pie crust. considered publishing this video with no talking whatsoever. But I don't know, a whispered commentary track just seemed appropriate. Please let me know in the comments if you would also like me to release a no-talking version. I love pumpkin pie. As a kid, it was the only pie I would eat. I've grown to appreciate fruit pies more as an adult, but pumpkin pie remains my favorite pie. It's just so comforting. And I'm sure that has much more to do with sense memory than it does with the pie itself. Your mileage may vary, but pumpkin pie will remain an annual tradition for me. Oh God, here's where the lack of water really bites me. You're supposed to be able to roll the crust around the rolling pin and transfer it to the pie dish. But, that's not working very well here. one real downside of not putting enough water in your dough is that it's difficult to roll it out super thin. And that means when I place the crust into the pie dish, it doesn't hang over the edge very far. So I can't really do anything fancy with the edge of my crust. I suppose I could just use a little more flour and shortening than what the recipe calls for, so that I have extra crust. Maybe I'll consider doing that in the future. For now, with this first crust, I'm just going to trim off everything that protrudes over the top of the dish, and I'll add that excess to my second crust. So, here we go. Take 2. This time you'll notice that I haven't left the flour bag in between my camera and the mixing bowl like a numpty. Hooray for me. On the other hand, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that in a lot of these shots, the whisk has gotten a bit messy. That's because when I added the first tablespoonful of water to this batch of dough, I had a little bit of a brain fart and started to toss the dough with the whisk instead of the fork. Oops. I mean, the whisk would probably work almost as well, but it is nice to be able to have the more fine control that the fork gives you to make sure that the water is distributed evenly throughout a part of the dough. Listen to me talking like I know what I'm doing. Anyway, I add a little bit more water to this batch of dough, so when it comes to rolling it out, I won't have to stop quite as often to fix the cracks, although there certainly will be some. And hey, there goes that leftover dough from the first crust into the bowl. recipe I use suggests rolling until the crust has a diameter of about 12 inches, but I just kind of eyeball it. Okay, so this is a more successful example of transferring the crust from the table to the pie dish. Although I do have to admit that it took me quite a bit longer than what you see here to get the dough to come up off the table. I don't think I sufficiently floured the surface. Now, thanks to the excess dough from the first crust, this crust actually hangs over the edge of the dish enough to make the edge a little more fancy. Of course, all I do is just kind of roll the dough under itself to make a bit of a raised edge. But if you have more skill than I do, you can make it sort of braided like a rope, or scalloped, or just about anything else you can imagine, really, if you have enough excess dough to pull it off. It's sort of like pie crust pottery, I guess. So anyway, now we have 2 pie crusts, and it's time to make the filling. I just use the recipe that's printed on the side of the can of the Libby's Pumpkin Pack, with one minor adjustment. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of sugar, but I find that makes the pie a little too sweet. Just a little too sweet. So I reduce it to 1 cup exactly. Now here comes the fun part, adding the spices. We start with cinnamon, lots and lots of cinnamon. just a bit, just a bit, just a bit of cloves. I just love how they look sitting on top of that white sugar, all the colors blending together, and then mix them all together. Now it's time for the eggs. Into the bowl they go, one by one. And now to add the pureed pumpkin. And I deeply apologize if this part is super gross. When I watched it back in editing, I thought, oh god, no one's going to want to see this. But it's part of the process, so in the video it stays. Go the dry ingredients, and once they're fully mixed in, thankfully, the filling will start to look like it's supposed to, and not like a gross mixture of eggs and pumpkin. It also starts to smell pretty good here too. I wish you could smell it. I wish I could smell it. And now the final ingredient, condensed milk. The recipe specifies that this this is to be mixed in little by little. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it actually makes a difference. But, the first rule of baking is follow the recipe. Unlike with other kinds of cooking, baking is very temperamental, and you can never be quite sure how even a minor alteration might affect your end product. I reduce the sugar in my pumpkin pies because I found that I like them better that way. But I would be loath to try making any additional modifications to the recipe. Maybe I'm just risk-averse. I know there are bakers out there who just love to experiment with recipes. Still, when in doubt, follow the recipe. Curious whether any of you have a significantly different recipe for pumpkin pie filling. If you do, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. And there you have it, pumpkin pie filling. Now all that's left is to divide the filling as evenly as possible between our two crusts, and then put them in the oven to bake. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button to make it easier for others to find it. Consider subscribing to the channel, and there just might be another baking video in the future. And like I said at the beginning, I would love your feedback on this, so please leave a comment as well.